All
Yeah,
right,
so I'm
go for it.
Russell. I've been working with Phil Oz team to help with some Filecoin Pin stuff and some of the projects we'll be showing you here shortly.
And my name is Tim, and if you've been a builder, particularly in the cohort, I'm product at Philos, but I'm also working with you guys to understand what you need, helping and sometimes shape your product so that you guys can be more successful and find product market fit. So we're going to share some of those learnings and then give a demo of how to use Filecoin Pin. All right, I'll go ahead and give a start. So I've been chatting with a couple of builders, and in terms of like some use cases where the Filecoin Pin CLI actually makes sense and there's interest in these. So I'm going to walk through them very, very quickly to save time for the actual demo. So the first one is DeFi websites. So this is a combination where we work with both IPFS and ENS, and then everything is stored on Filecoin. And I was chatting with a DeFi developer who really wanted security. Security is a big thing. DeFi is becoming bigger and bigger. And yet, if they rely on centralized services, whether it's DNS or how they store and become location dependent, it actually has resulted in hacks, particularly if it's server-side content injection attack, as well as the DNS hijacking. So I think around this space, there are reasons why the IPFS CLI fit pinning CLI is actually a great solution, and there's interest around that. Second one is around proposals. In Web3, we talk about DAO proposals, and I talked to a builder who is exploring how does he work with DAOs and decisions on, say, improvement proposals and make those verified and saved and not dependent on them going down or being tampered with. But this actually also applies to Web 2 government records, particularly more in local, but we've seen situations where there are national governments who are concerned about maintaining the integrity and accessibility of government records. And then the third one, can't have a presentation without talking about AI agents. And as AI agents become much more autonomous, we need a way to know what is it and what do they do? What's their reputation? How good are they? And how do we verify what they've done and how they've seen it? So a one small use case, but I think will be very big that I've been exploring has been the financial advisors could migrate to become AI agents. So you have to trust, well, who are they? What kind of records do they have and experience do they have on giving financial advice? And then ways to verify that they will do what they say. And in many cases, a CLI is actually a great form factor for agents to interact with, and IPFS is a good way to enable that shared global protocol for them to access and read the data. And then they need a place that is decentralized so that it's not subject to either tampering, rugging, or being unaccessible. So that's the use case. If anybody is interested in these areas, please reach out to me because I can give you much more detail about the space, the problems, and the features. But why don't we go and talk about what exactly is the Filecoin Pin CLI and how it works and how you can then build these kinds of amazing applications. So, Russell?
Cool, thanks, Tim. Yeah, so let's jump in. There, I'm gonna go straight into a demo and then I'll kind of talk about some details after. So you've already heard a little bit about some of the tools, but we have two really good starter tools built with Filecoin Pin that I want to show off with what I've been calling Filecoin Pinception. So we have a Filecoin Pin demo website or DApp that allows you to upload files using Filecoin Pin. It's a serverless single page application. And we have a GitHub action that allows you to upload static assets, from your GitHub repo after build during your GitHub workflow to Filecoin using Filecoin Pin. And we added that action to the demo website's GitHub workflows. So let's see what happens.
All right, I want to show you Pinception. I'm running through just real quick, adding some changes that'll create a PR. And once that PR is kicked off, the CI workflow will go through and we will build the assets. And once those assets are built, it's going to trigger the Filecoin pin upload action, which I'm showing here. You got to trigger it from the workflow run. So this is our build sort of step, and then we just upload those build artifacts. And then our Filecoin upload action can read that. So we're hard coding a provider ID here and have some wallet config and stuff, but yeah, we just are waiting here. I kind of sped things up a little bit. So we see the upload action go ahead and kick off, and I'll speed through a few more times here and kind of skip some of the slower parts. But the overall runtime of this video without any edits was 8 minutes. So you can see we just validated our deposit and validated how much money we had. So now we're essentially just waiting for the upload to happen. It is a 1.1 megabyte file, I think we can see here at the top. And so this section is sped up a little bit. Upload times can vary depending on, size and your storage provider. And okay, and since we validated our storage amounts, we need to select a provider, select a data set within that provider, and start the upload to that provider of the content. And what will happen once it's fully uploaded is we'll get a transaction ID back. And this output sort of waits until we get that transaction ID to sort of go to the next one. And we just got that transaction ID, so we're waiting for confirmation now. That section was a little sped up. So now the Filecoin Pin upload action gives us some links here so we can actually view the content on IPFS. This is using an in-browser IPFS gateway that I've worked on the past 2 years, but we're essentially rendering this, fetching it directly in the from our browser. So now this Filecoin Pin website demo actually requires a new data set per user based on the session key we have set. So we are waiting on that data set creation now. You don't have to. You can select a file and click upload, and it will, wait in the app itself. But I kind of wanted to show in the console logs here, and this was sped up a tiny bit. But we select a file that was sped up because that's not really relevant. And this section is, I don't believe I sped this one up at all. We're just waiting on the upload to complete there. So that's a new file upload, 1 megabyte, and you can see that was faster than the GitHub action. Now we're announcing the IPNI. So we're kind of waiting on our IPNI service to say that the storage provider announced our IPFS root CID. So this will take varying amounts depending on providers, but it's definitely something we're working on speeding up more. Once it announces, we can then successfully fetch from IPFS, and you'll see that here when this IPFS root CID sort of changes. And then we're also, waiting on the storage provider to transaction to be verified, and that's of the upload of the PCID. So then we click the link to our IPFS gateway for the content we just uploaded, and we wait for that to load. It's loading, and here it comes. Yep, that's the image I uploaded, and that's basically Pinception, the full flow.
I want to recap what just happened. So it was a little bit fast, but I did want to show the whole flow, and I've only got 15 minutes. So we opened a PR to the demo website where it triggered the Filecoin Pin GitHub action. The GitHub action uploaded that demo DApp to Filecoin and announced it to IPNI. We then accessed that DApp from an IPFS gateway running entirely in our browser, directly fetching it from the provider of that data, which is the Filecoin on-chain cloud provider. And then once that was rendered, we use the app in our browser to then upload another file to Filecoin and access that from the centralized IPFS.io gateway we all know and love. So that was the entire flow. That's Filecoin Pinception, sort of showing off the different apps and what is possible right now with Filecoin Pin. So Filecoin Pin sort of brings everything together that I think a lot of people have been wanting since Filecoin was launched, and a lot of struggles I've seen from IPFS users. I'll go into that a little bit more in detail later, but yeah, Filecoin Pin is built on Synapse SDK, which Hugo's talk sort of went in depth there. It shows, but Filecoin Pin is documented very heavily, and it shows how you can control different wallet amounts or verifying that warm storage allowances are set up properly. We actually do that in Filecoin Pin a specific way for reasons, which we can go into later if anybody's curious. But if you're a developer, you should start with Filecoin Pin, and it's really easy to use and get started now. I'll dive into using the CLI shortly here in just a moment, but going back to the overall architecture that we saw just a bit ago, Filecoin Pin sort of sits in the middle of all of this, and it's meant to be a reference implementation so developers can get started easily and fork it and extend it and customize things for their own needs. But yeah, that's the full system right there. And so we did already look at that website and GitHub Action a little bit. I'm happy to answer questions if people have those about how those work, but feel free to check out the source code on GitHub. I'll have some links here popping up at the end. But I want to dive into the CLI because we didn't cover that yet. So in these next few slides, I'm going to assume you've set up a wallet with funds, which we have some tools to do that, and there's documentation around doing that. So I'm not going to go into that. But if you just run npx Filecoin Pin, ideally you install it globally first, but you can also npx -- yes to just run it without like fully installing it globally forever. But you can see all the commands available here. So we have an IPFS pinning server that you can attach to. You can run locally and run with IPFS desktop or Kubo, so that as you add files and then pin them to this Filecoin Pin IPFS pinning server, it then posts it to Filecoin behind the scenes. So that's pretty cool. But what first you are going to want to do with Filecoin Pin CLI is set up your warm storage allowances. So if you first run it and you have your private key set or your session keys and you run payment status, you'll see that we here do have a wallet balance. We've got some fill and we've got some USDFC, but we don't have a storage deposit. We don't have anything deposited. So Rod actually set up the payments setup auto, which will get you going very quickly. And this uses some of those, opinionated defaults that I talked about a second ago. But by running Filecoin Pin payment setup -- auto, or remove the auto to get some interactivity there if you want. Once this completes, we're set up to start adding files or use this in our GitHub Action, or set this on our environment variables in Versal for our deployed DApp or whatever we need to do. And you can then use, based on the other commands, you can use payments deposit. I didn't actually show that here, sorry. But you can use payments deposit, payments withdraw in order to adjust how much is actually deposited into your warm storage account. So it's pretty easy to get set up, I think. If you haven't already started thinking about all the amazing things you can build with Filecoin on-chain cloud and Filecoin Pin, how I think about this is, and why I'm excited, is before Filecoin Pin, there was a lot of real barriers, and there's different, pinning providers which have done great for making, persisting IPFS or persisting content and making it available on IPFS easy. But you had these individual sort of deals with these different centralized pinning service providers. And then, there's some difficulties with getting your content on Filecoin directly, complex workflows. And so with Filecoin Pin, that's all decentralized and handled via contracts and Filecoin on-chain cloud now under the hood. So a lot of that complexity goes away. There's a lot of work over the past 5 years that have made this so easy now with Filecoin Pin. And there's so much you can build. Tim talked about a little bit with the AI workflows and things. I'm gonna try to hurry up because I think I'm running out of time here. But yeah, there's a lot of things you can build. All of the existing IPFS use cases, you can just add the action, or hopefully we're going to be getting it into IPFS deploy action at some point. But yeah, you can fork the repo now, and use it, build your own things. There's a lot you can do. with having your data, your IPFS content persisted on Filecoin, and then still do all the regular IPFS things. So start building today. I want to thank you for being here, checking out Filecoin Pin, and thanks to everybody, all the amazing builders over the past 5 years. There's somebody should count that. How many people did it take to get here? A lot. But please open issues in the GitHub repos if you run into issues, or join our Slack channel and let us know what you're excited about building. The vision is here, so let's build the future. Thanks.